He quiets the room and he's like, give them one. And I yell out, EA Sports. It's in the game. Brings the house down.
Phone rang and came out and he says, hey, Michael. And he goes, it's Kobe. Kobe Bryant.
Can only be one name.
And I was like, hey, what's up? How you doing?
And it was an amazing experience. I
Yeah.
mean, we were shooting Marshall Faulk, we were shooting Ray Lewis, we were shooting Jerry Rice, we were literally flying. We went to Miami, we shoot Zach Thomas.
Like,
Chris
you do the
Lovell.
beats, right? And then he calls back, he goes, yeah, hey, Chris Lovell changed his name. I'm like, okay, cool. He goes, yeah, his name's Ludacris.
Pure hustle. Pure hustle. The chase is on, the rational. It ain't if you got skills to match who's making it real. The voice, the horn, the gatekeeper, the wizard, living the life powered by pure hustle.
This is the Pure Hustle podcast series, where irrational belief gets real thanks to Pure Hustle. Episode 1, Living the Game. The guys who hustled EA Sports into a billion-dollar thing. Let's go.
So for 32 years, I've been working on this brand, EA Sports, and these three guys were there from day one. These are the guys, and you'll never see this dream team assembled again. These are the guys that created that brand, the brand that you live with today, the brand that has become bigger than just a video game company, right? It went from a video game company in the beginning, right, and then it became more of a lifestyle brand.
Are you going to tell a story? Or do you want
Yeah,
us to tell a story?
This is all set up, Jeff. You're gonna get your time.
Just say Gristle again. Just say Gristle.
Trust me, the longer I can keep that camera on myself, the better it's
Can
gonna
you
be
do
for my
Gristle
career.
in the EA Sports voice?
Gristle?
Yeah.
Gristle.
Yeah, there you
Gristle.
go.
You threw in Gristle as a part of like the hustle thing, and I'm like, Gristle, like
All right,
is
come
Gristle
on,
the
you
same
guys.
thing as
I'm
hustle?
trying to do a setup. This is my first
I don't even-
podcast.
like what?
I'm doing a little setup here, a little song and dance. Watch me tap dance
I like
for one
it.
more second.
Gristle's
These
like the
guys,
stuff on a pot,
right
like after
here.
you cook bacon.
Jeff Odiorn, out of Philly, out of dirty Philly, original creative director, agency guy. His partner Michael Wild, art director. Unbelievable talents. Young guys when I met them had a dream of winning a client, starting their own agency. The client happened to be EA Sports. Glenn Chin here is one of the original OGs from EA, product manager.
Yes.
In the early days, worked on all the titles that you know and loved, worked on the NBA titles, worked on the golf titles, ended up touching them all. And this podcast today is going to be about the inspiration that created a moment, that created a brand, that created a sports property, that created a title that became a phenomenon. Across the world, everybody knows EA Sports. In fact, I remember at one point hearing that EA Sports had become like one of the top 10, not just sports brands, but brands at large in America. I'm talking Coca-Cola, I'm talking General Motors, I'm talking all that stuff, right? So you create this line, right, if it's in the game, EA Sports, it's in the game. And then I look at the game, and I'm like, is that quarterback 3 pixels? Like, I'm not sure that's what the game looks like.
Right.
But I knew that you guys were convinced you were going to get there, right?
So I think you tapped on the third thing that Trans made very clear, which was in order to become a top 5 sports brand, we need to act like a sports brand.
Yeah.
And I remember the first time when we as a collective were explaining to the 500 producers at a big meeting that they weren't a video game company making sports products. They were a sports company making video games.
Yeah.
I mean, making video games.
So the guys who were making the games, like, they knew a lot about sports, right? They maybe stopped playing in grade school, or maybe some of them did play college football. But the games were fantastic, and I think, we collectively, marketing brand guys in the agency, poured gas on it.
Yeah.
And took it to a whole new level.
Yeah. I want to know how you two punters go from working, I'm guessing, in an ad agency on the West Coast to being the team that cracks the code, right, that comes up with that positioning, EA Sports, it's in the game, which has become, monolithic. What are you two doing when you get the call saying there's this new client that we want you to pitch? What's happening there?
We had like 2 weeks to the pitch, And then you went to Italy
No,
for a week.
I was already in Italy, and I came back, and then you walk up to me in the hallway and go, "Okay, there's this sports video game company. We have 3 days to pitch it." Or and I'm like, "Yeah, let's go do it."
The agency that does all the Nike work, Wyden, right?
Right.
Goes in, probably slick as shit.
Yeah.
Right? Just fucking murder it.
Right.
That's what they do.
Right.
And they're like, this thing's a wrap.
Right.
And then you two drunkards stumble in.
Well, and Foot Cone, the
Yeah,
other,
Foot Cone
the,
and
the
Belding,
youth
right?
agency,
Yeah, they were
went
doing
and
Levi's
polished
and stuff, and-
And that's the hustle was we didn't have time, we didn't have support, but we were diehard sports fans.
Yeah.
And we didn't even know video games that
Yeah.
well. But like Glenn was saying, like his thing, he didn't go there to go necessarily work for video games. He went there because, sports is
Could
a
ladder
thing.
up to something.
And,
good.
No,
uh,
absolutely. I thought
So
it was going to be
out
great.
of-
Yeah.
Yeah, it was out of function
Yeah.
that we ended up stick figures on the whiteboard. But we also knew, okay, this is a differentiator because Wyden's going to go in polished. Foot
Yeah.
Cone's going to go in polished. They're going to go
Right.
in super tight. They're going to go in
Right.
super fresh. And Wyden's going to go with the attitude of we're going to present one fucking idea because we're Wyden and that's all you need.
And you're gonna buy
Which,
it.
by the way, pissed off Transit because he was like expecting more from them. And he's
Right.
like, what else you got in the bag? And they were like,
And the
nothing.
idea
We're
was
great. We're
really
Wyden."
not that good to
And then
begin
he's
with.
like, whatever.
You're
We
lucky,
were-
you're
we-
lucky
we
to
had
have
the
us in the
concept.
room.
Yeah.
Right?
I
And-
mean, yeah, and
yeah.
we wanted to our approach was, hey, let's just paint a picture, you know what I mean, for what this brand could be. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? We went in, I think, with 10 ideas. Like you said, they were, we had scripts written off on paper that Jeff had, and we actually did storyboards, but we didn't even show those till after the pitch was over. It was basically me on a whiteboard drawing pictures, as Jeff basically read the scripts.
And doing
Yeah.
sound effects.
And
You did sound
I did
effects.
sound effects too.
Can you give us any of those sound effects? Do you remember?
like the Madden Thunder. You know what I mean? It was like we did
Holy shit, that's some strong
so
Foley
Madden
right there.
walks out onto the field and
And he draws a stick figure with a
Yeah.
big head. He's like, this is, and then writes John Madden. And puts an arrow to it, just so you knew that
yeah,
stick figure was
that's
John
right.
Madden.
In case
Yeah.
you didn't get
Yeah.
it from my artist rendition here, this is John Madden.
This is John Madden.
You call me and reenact that call.
So we were 3,000 miles away
Yeah.
in the Bay Area. We were cooking up the voice,
Yeah.
right? And I don't mean the literal voice. I mean like the voice,
Right.
right? Like
Style and tone.
What's
What
EA
is
going
it?
to sound like?
competitive,
Yeah.
aggressive,
Yeah.
take no prisoners,
Right.
good ass kicking seal of approval. And we're inventing this voice and we're writing scripts and the Gimme script was a product of that. And it's time to go make the commercials. And it's like, okay, let's go through the typical casting and let's go get a voiceover. And so we bring in a bunch of voiceovers.
Right.
And they sucked. Like they just weren't, they were polished, they
Yeah.
weren't raw, they weren't real. And you popped in my head because I knew you shared the
It was
crazy-
charity. It was a charity.
It was a charity.
It was.
It was
You knew you were gonna get
It was a
canned.
You knew you were gonna
default.
get
It was
canned.
charity.
A
You knew you
default
were
to the
gonna
lowest
get
common
Yeah, we were like,
denominator.
you know what? We're at our rock bottom. Let's
You know
call
what
this guy.
we
and see what he
need?
can
We
do.
need someone. We need someone that totally doesn't know what the hell they're doing.
Yeah,
and that sounds like
Yeah.
they don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And I come down, and you worked me hard, bro.
Well, okay, so you did the scratch.
Yeah.
And there was still a hustle that had to happen internally because even though Transit was like, I like the raw, real guy,
Yeah.
other people were like, we need a pro.
Yeah, he
Like,
doesn't
I'm
sound like
I'm
he
not
knows
gonna-
what he's doing.
I'm not going to bet on that.
Right.
And, again, with his allyship and our getting after it kind of attitude and crew and
Yeah.
people on the inside like Glenn and the other product guys going, that voice, that's the right guy. Like you have the velvety pipes for it, but you still have the attitude.
And we didn't even know what he looked like.
Who cares? No one ever saw
Had
me.
you known,
No one saw me for the first 20 years. Had you known, you would have said that is not the voice of EA.
You're like,
Sports."
that's a
why we
fucking
hid you
voiceover. voice.
I was hidden for 20 years. I wasn't allowed to tell anyone who I was.
Right.
That was terrible. So back
So you
to
do
early
it.
days again. God, I got to keep you focused. You are like a Tasmanian devil. You're just spinning around. You come up with the line.
Guess who?
I know.
the voice again.
what?
That's it.
It's like I'm looking in a mirror.
Yeah.
So you come up with the line. I do the scratch. You decide, all right, we're going to take a flyer. And I'm sure it was a flyer. I'm sure it was like, we'll try it, and if it doesn't work out, it cost us one ticket from Toronto to San Francisco, right? We go in, and I remember that session. I remember the beauty of that hustle for me was I wasn't even nervous. I'm more nervous doing a podcast. I was like, this either works or it doesn't work. I'm already in San Francisco.
Right.
I don't really care.
Right.
I'm not getting paid.
Right.
This is like love of the game stuff. God,
And that campaign was ACES. The party that we had inside when that
Yeah.
when
The
that
company
TV campaign
meeting.
launched.
Yeah.
Invite
like-
everybody into that one, brother.
No, I mean, look, again, you know, the company's about 150 people every Friday, and mostly young single dudes
Yeah.
at that time.
yes.
So Friday's company party, there's beers and a keg, and then these guys come down to introduce the whole company to the first TV campaign,
Yeah.
right? And having a blast. And even at that early time, you know, like athletes and artists were super into it. And, you know, we're in the Bay Area, so here kind of rolls through kind of, you know, early 90s hip hop star MC Hammer from Oakland.
Hit me, Hammer.
Wearing the pants.
Did he have the pants on?
He had the pants on.
He had the
Yeah.
pants on.
Pants.
Yeah.
He had the pants
Oh,
on.
the Hammer pants.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you know, rolls up to Michael.
Good, and he goes, hey, Michael, hey, nice to meet you. I'm like, this is crazy. Like,
The world
like,
turned upside
like
down.
normally I come talk to you, right? And I come say, nice pants, right?
Right.
But-
Is there a chance that MC Hammer thought you were Michael Stipe?
yes.
From REM.
Was
there a
it.
chance
That
he
was-
thought he was
yeah.
just kicking it with a fellow
That was
music
it.
legend?
Yeah, he said he was losing his religion and he wanted to come talk to me.
right.
That's right. I remember that.
So you launched.
But he was
so-
part of. I mean, you know, he was parading up and down the sidelines
Yeah.
of the Atlanta Falcons. Like, you know, one of the first like the guys
Absolutely.
to get down there and get busy, and you know, rappers want to be ballers and ballers want to be rappers, and like, you know, I mean, he was.
It was a
legendary
very
culturally.
very early what we call now influencer, right?
Yeah.
We're talking pre-internet now,
Yeah,
right? So,
right.
you know, the fact that someone like MC Hammer, you know, would love what we were doing with EA Sports,
Yeah.
and wanted to be part of who he was and is, and you know, thrown down Madden, you know, with other artists and athletes, like that started to kick off the brand.
So yeah, this is where the funnel goes like this, right? Like you're
Yeah.
you're
and it was a big,
you're simply making like Sims, right, and video games and everything, and then it's like from this point that you're like, oh my God, everybody from all walks of life, like musicians, artists, athletes, people are falling in love with this game, and it gives you license for what? To be more
going from a great sports video games
Right.
to a sports juggernaut.
Yeah.
Literally inviting into lifestyle. That's the stuff that Glenn and the guys that he had on that side were doing. While we were creating the air cover
Yeah.
with this attitude and your voice, and that was the hustle, and we're going to build a sports company and whatever, they were doing things on that side, like, you know, underground stuff and activations and cultural stuff, and bringing in the extensions of just sports fans wanting
Yeah.
to play sports games. These guys were sports fans, but they were also musicians, celebrities, you know.
Pro athletes, you know, I mean, the things that were happening without kind of corporate, you know, marketing getting in the
Yeah.
mix was just people were loving competing on Madden,
Yeah.
competing on NBA Live, and throwing money down, right?
Oh,
So
gambling.
I
Oh,
would
I
see,
know.
I would go to recording studios and you know, with Digital Underground and Money B and those guys, and just hear about it. Like,
Yeah.
hey, we're throwing down between takes.
Yeah.
Like, it's that serious. And the games are so good that we'll throw down money on it. That phenomenon started, like, right after you guys came into the mix and the first gimme spots. And, again, people were getting down on Madden when it was a cartridge,
yeah.
right? So even locally here, my friend Steve Prudhomme, A&R guy, Warner Brothers, somehow we meet through his cousin. He was like, hey, man, can you bring down an early version of Madden? Like, I got Snoop, Warren G, Morris Chestnut, all the young guys in
Yeah.
LA. We love playing Madden.
Holy.
So his hustle is connecting people through Madden.
Yeah.
He tells me, we should have him on the show sometime. He tells me that early hip hop, people got connected by getting down on Madden.
Yeah.
So, right? So could have been back in the day playing cards or whatever, but you know, a social thing like, hey, you played Madden? Yeah, fuck, I'll kill you. Let's play, right? So that's how a lot of people met back then.
Yeah.
and they were playing big money games.
Absolutely.
So
Big
what-
money
Underground
games.
in clubs.
Yep.
Like it wasn't like there was no, again, we were creating opportunity out of chaos.
Yeah.
Because again, we didn't necessarily know what we were doing. We had good instincts and whatever, but we did have these experiences that led to, like creating things. And that spirit, like that's kind of where Madden Bowl sort of came from.
Yeah.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. People recognized it, very early back in the day, the Source magazine, which was, the Rolling Stone of hip hop,
Right.
early 90s. Those guys reached out, John Schechter, Dave Mays, and they're like, hey, a lot of artists play Madden. And, we're like, yeah, we know. He goes, let's do a Madden Bowl tournament together. Let's do a New York tournament with East Coast, West Coast. That was kind of what was going on back then. There was an earthquake in the West Coast, and those guys couldn't come out. So it was basically, Tribe Called Quest, Naughty by Nature, those guys threw down. We had the first Madden Bowl tournament in 1993 with the Source. And I think it just kind of, their medium just helped exploded in the
Yeah.
culture. And, then we had Madden Bowl at Super Bowl. And we kind of married NFL players and hip hop artists. And it was awesome. And I think they just brought it back this year, 24 years later.
It sounds like you guys basically lit the fuse on this, and then it was like a bomb that went off.
Right.
And you had to be scrambling at this point. Like, you're like, oh my God, this is like, it's a lot of success really quick.
Company's $100 million. When we all take off and do our own thing, it's $3 billion.
Right.
And, there's 3,000 people all over the world.
Yeah.
So, we can't really necessarily talk, from 2005 forward, which, the company's evolved. But certainly during those early years, look, we're catching up with folks who really love the game.
Yeah.
Right? And those insights about, hey, people are gambling. Like, okay, well, we're not doing that corporately. But, yeah, we show up with some shirts and showcase some support.
Right.
And get on that,
Yeah.
and then taking the insights of people really battling. I'm better than you, and I
Yeah.
can prove it. Elevating that stuff into kind of mainstream advertising.
The advertising was such a big part of it back in the day, right? Like I can remember just the way the box looked. I would go into stores so that I could tell people, yeah, see that thing? I'm that, I do that thing, right? And they were like, whatever.
What thing?
Can we go to the yarn barn?
How's it
and
go?
get, we're doing some macrame this afternoon. But I remember seeing the box, on the shelves and thinking, it looks so different than everything else. It's like it stands out.
Well, thank you. Yes.
All right, so the art director, is that all you got for me?
Yeah,
I
no,
tee you up.
that was
I
hack,
tee
too.
you up. I tee you up, and
I
then
know.
you shank one
That
into
was
the
a
woods.
You know
hustle
what?
hack, too.
Because it was such the obvious TF, and I'm like, I'm gonna go with it. Yeah. I'm like,
Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you very
you,
much.
and
That was
we're
a good-
done.
I like the way you built it up.
Yeah,
That was the
I know,
drama
I
in
know.
that was like
I
huge.
know.
It was really good.
I'm all about that.
No, so so basically, in the beginning, there were, obviously sports video games and, other action video games, and basically they all had the same look. One day we walked into, I think you and I walked into some store, like some video game store, and like you see this massive sea of video games.
Yeah,
and-
they didn't have jewel cases then, so
yeah,
they
were
weren't
just
out.
like-
They were up on a
they
wall.
put a wall.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Like
they
the
weren't behind the
cigarettes
counter.
behind
You didn't
the,
have to like
yeah.
go get it. And it was just this big, massive kaleidoscope of color. You couldn't even like see anything. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like
was a shit show.
nothing stuck out.
Right.
And I was like, and I don't know even how we came to it, but we were like, okay, you know what I mean? If there was, a white box in this place, it would really stand out amongst this sea of sameness.
Yeah.
So, with Nancy and Don, you know what I mean? We went back and said, hey, because that was their original charge to us too. It was like, hey, we got to figure out a way to, stand out
Yeah.
on the shelves because we're just not. We
And-
made the trip, came back, said white. Nobody else is doing white.
Yeah.
Let's do white.
Yeah.
And what's interesting about that, again, is that, the common conventional wisdom was, no, it's got to be cut. Like, even initially,
Show me some
and
game
God bless
footage.
Nancy Fung, because she wasn't this, but other people were like, no, it's got, certainly the game designers
Yeah,
and
yeah.
producers were like, it's got to be colorful, it's got to be, what are you talking about, white? but then explaining that the only way that anything's going to cut through on that show was if all that crap was framing up,
Right.
not just one white box, but if
Yeah.
it became a couple of them,
Right.
and like it was again a practical hack based on experience that was unconventional.
Yeah.
And people bought into it. We did it, and it went on to become like the
Yeah, all the competitors started to do white boxes, so
Yeah.
the sports games started to be like white box.
It-
But in the early days, it really
became the
really
white box
grew.
category.
Absolutely.
It became the white box
Yeah.
category.
So you had you hit a home run with it, and everybody else is like, oh God, we got to do more of that, right? Like all the competition is like, we got to do more of that. All right, if can I take a break here? Can I just take a break? We got to do a couple of commercials from our sponsors. Let them know. EA Sports. We're in the Pure Hustle.
Finally, it is here. You can take all that just another game stuff and throw it out. The eyes of the nation are on this field today, and that's what these players live for.
Welcome to the jungle. We got fun and games. We got everything you want. How do we know the names? We are the people that can find whatever you may need. If you got the money, honey, we got your disease. Welcome to the jungle. What we bring it to ya. I wanna watch you bleed.
Pure hustle. Pure hustle.
All right, welcome back to Pure Hustle. Things are going pretty good. We're mixing it up. So, like, suddenly things are kicking off, right? You guys are like this young challenger team, right? You win the business, everything's going good. You come up with this great line. You get me. It's probably the smartest movie ever made. And then, and then
For
it goes,
nothing.
and then it just explodes, right? Like you go from being, you know, this small challenger brand to suddenly you are like a big deal. And like even the music, right, Glenn? Like you go from, like you put the game in and you click the bed track and it's dinky donkey dinky dinky donk.
Wait,
right?
what?
Like
Say
bing
that
bong,
again? What did it sound like?
Dinky donkey dinky binky donkey dinky.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
is obviously
Right.
exactly what it sounded like.
Exactly.
Right. But suddenly you've got like real musicians
Yeah,
coming.
no,
right?
absolutely. And I think those early days of dinky donkey on the
Well, the Binky.
cartridges.
Yeah, the Binky on
right?
that, yeah.
The cartridges, that's when, you know, we're getting to know Snoop, Warren G, Jermaine Dupri, all these like great artists of the 90s, right?
So are they just playing the game?
They're playing the game.
That's how it starts.
Yeah,
They're playing the,
they're playing the
loving
games.
game.
We hear about it. We support their tournaments, whatever. We're getting to know them, building a relationship through the
Yeah.
game. But we know PlayStation 1's coming. We know the games are going to be on CDs. We know that we can put real music on the games.
So you didn't have the room initially.
didn't have the
On a
rooms on that little
You didn't have
cartridge.
the room to put good music
Right.
on it.
Technically, you didn't
Much
have
less
it.
good visuals, man. It was all, you know,
I know. It was
all
Right.
terrible.
pixelated.
I can't even look at it. To this day, I can't go back and look at it. I'm like,
So this is the truth. I mean that through those relationships, we know PlayStation 1's coming. So, you know, I can call Jermaine Dupri and say, "Hey, JD, will you do the beats for Madden?"
yeah.
Right? Our production guys, partners, they're into it, right?
Yeah.
And they're like, "Yeah, let's get them." So, hey, JD, will you do the beats for Madden? Yeah, I'll do it. No problem. I'm like, no, like you do it, not one of your proteges. He goes, yeah, I'll do it. No, it'll be great.
Yeah.
I'm going to put this guy on to rhyme over the beats. His name's Chris Lova. I'm like, cool, awesome. But make sure you do the beats.
Right, because you don't know who Chris.
Right?
who's
Like
Chris
you do the
Lava?
beats, right? And then he calls back. He goes, yeah, hey, Chris Lova changed his name. I'm like, okay, cool. He goes, yeah, his name's Ludacris.
He did the original.
So I don't know who Ludacris is.
Yeah.
No one in the world knows who Ludacris is. But he's like, yeah, he's going to rhyme over the beats for Madden. So he ends up being the title track for Madden. And that was his first public thing, you know, busted it out at Madden Bowl. And, you know, the rest is history for him.
Right.
Great dude. And, you know, I think overall with music, you know, it went from like paying 6 figures for a producer's favorite song to put on their game
Right.
to us hiring a full-time music team.
Yeah.
You know,
They're
Steve-
just sourcing all these new acts.
yeah, but just not only that, but just like building those relationships, and then, you know, Steve Schnurr, who still runs Worldwide Music for EA, it flips that if you're an artist, you know, instead of paying for spins at radio or paying,
Right.
if you could be on Madden and it sells 5 to 10 million day one, and your songs there, that's 10 million spins plus how many, you know, times people play the game. So it's totally flipped. Video game music is insane.
So then,
Just
Yeah.
Blaze, NBA. It wasn't just Madden. Madden
No,
was like the
no.
walking
If
Madden.
anything, you know, fast forward to 2003, like we launched a full soundtrack with NBA Live, and it was the first platinum album day one, right? At Snoop, Just
Yeah.
Blaze, and then Just Blaze is in our, you know, doing all the music for our commercials. So it really became, you know, taking the lifestyle and the love of EA Sports games and getting folks into actually being in the game.
so it's like a testament to how good the game was, right? That you've got all these people that you were chasing you now, right?
Yeah,
Totally. We flipped the script.
Yeah.
absolutely.
We collectively.
Yeah.
And I think what's really important is that how, like you're asking how that happened, and those are the stories that how it happened. Behind the scenes, again, the environment that was created was not like, you know, outside marketing partner over here, you know, internal product managers, or even within EA, the silos between the guys making the games and the guys marketing the games, which started out rocky. Again,
Yeah.
like it started out, you know, rocky. But the environment was, we loved that we were friends with and close to the cats on the other side, because they would come up and they would share social trends and music trends and stuff that helped shape the voice.
Yeah.
And then meanwhile, we were going down and saying, as we're shaping the voice, like these are the, and it was an inside out job. It was the notion that the template had been set for us to work together, be friends together, hang out together, use instincts over data or in addition to
Right.
data, and create this environment where the phenomenon could take off.
I mean, I grew up with you guys, you know, agency, client. Like, I didn't know, like, you know, the hierarchy of like, oh, you're supposed to talk to your account manager to talk to the advertising manager and then talk to the creative. I was like, what the
Yeah.
is that? You know, Wild would call me up and be like, hey, dude, we're doing the Coach K college basketball printout. Come up here and help me do it. I'm like, okay, cool. Like, I didn't know any different.
Glenn,
right?
I know I work for you, but I got nothing. Can you come up here
No,
and solve
no,
this
I mean,
whole thing?
and
I'm
we
for
going
me?
on vacation, man. Come do some comps. for
Yeah,
me.
we
Come
would
draw this shit
collaborate
up.
on it, and it wasn't, you know, years later when I went to Nike and I was working with Wyden and Kennedy, like, you know, I started to kind of learn what the real deal is.
Yeah.
Like, oh, there's 30 people in a room. Like, you got to talk to 4 people, and you can never talk to the
I bet
creative.
that was fun for you.
And I was like, what the?
I am the creative.
You know,
I'm the one.
like,
I did all that.
And I was like, where are my guys?
Yeah.
Like, you know, I mean,
Yeah.
so that, to your point, Jeff, that was like the beauty of it, is like, you guys, you know, learned, you know, the product marketing and had exposure to the production people, and we had, you know, exposure to you guys, and everybody was in the mix just to make a great product. And I think that's the hustle and the irrational belief of like, I don't know what the real
Yeah.
protocol is.
Yeah,
Let's
and it's
go make
because
shit.
because we never asked for permission. Back
Right.
in those days, it was just like, let's just do it. Let's not ask if it's okay to do it. We just said, okay, let's just go do it.
after our run together, I went up to Nike, and I'm the new guy, and guys at Nike told me like straight up, "Hey man, like when we're doing our stuff, we're like, who are these guys?
Right.
Like what are they doing?"
Right.
You know,
What's
it's
the
probably
secret
one of the
sauce?
reasons why they asked me to come was like because of all the work that you guys did, the whole work that we did. They were like
We
who are
want
these
some of
guys?
that.
These are kind of like they're kind of like us like 10, 20 years ago.
Right.
It's so funny. The grass is always greener because we always said that about Nike too. We
Yeah,
were like,
right.
Nike's like doing those guys are killing it. Like
Oh.
we love those guys. What are they doing? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's always
Yeah.
like it's not in your house, but it's
Right.
better in their house, right? But even though you don't know what you have sometimes.
That was the
Wild-
that was
Wild
the
had his
whiteboard.
resume out to Nike every second week. He was like,
Oh, yeah.
this EA thing's such a springboard.
Yeah.
I'm going to Nike." I remember the first time I saw someone on ESPN use something from a script that you wrote
Yeah, Boomer.
that I had read
Yeah.
like a week earlier.
Right.
And I'm watching ESPN at night, and it's like they're reading the script back, like the rock, the handle, the paint, the shoes, the blah, blah,
That's
blah.
when
that cadence, that whole EA
kind
cadence.
of knew. Again, there were glimpses of we knew we were creating something that was impacting the other way.
Yeah.
And when Boomer
Yeah.
is doing the intro to Sports Center and he does the entire 60-second rant, which basically, to be honest, part of the way the voice came together was ripping off what he was doing,
Yeah.
or what Fensky was doing,
Yeah.
and whatever. But like when he on national cable for the greatest sports thing at the time, ESPN,
Yeah.
does his whole 60-second Sports Center intro in the gimme voice.
Yeah.
Give me this, give me that, give me this, give me that. Like,
Yeah.
like you got something and things are moving.
Yeah.
And that affected music, that affected in stadium play.
Yeah.
All of a sudden we were affecting and infecting the other way.
Yeah.
And from the voice perspective, yeah, the writing was like very unique. And by the way, like your hand in that and your ability to like do that, and we would write stuff together.
Yes.
Was one of the other writers on the team sort of said like, "Oh, it's just a simple formula. It's -in,
Right.
bomb tossing, lock rocking,
Right.
blah 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 blah
yeah.
blah." But it was much deeper than
Yeah.
that. It was like
I
it
knew
was
that-
it was
yeah.
the nuances. It was
I
bringing
knew
it
that.
And it
'cause-
even came to the covers too. I mean,
Yeah.
like in the beginning, Glenn has a great story about how getting the athlete for the cover for the video games was like more about like, okay, who do we pay?
Right.
Right.
We'll do it for us.
Then it became okay. How can we pay you to be on the cover of like
Oh, so the
Madden or
athlete's
NBA?
coming to you and saying,
Yeah, and Glenn is the expert
Yeah,
on this
no,
for sure.
no doubt. Like when we started to put cover guys, on NBA Live, on Madden, after that was
Right.
certainly a different deal because Madden wasn't on the cover. But I ran the basketball products at EA, NBA Street, March Madness, certainly NBA Live. But when we started doing NBA Live. And shout out Mitch Richmond, NBA Live 97. He was the first guy. Like, we had agents. I had agents calling me. One in particular was, I think it was NBA Live 99. David Falk, old school famous agent, repped Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
David Falk's like, "Hey, Glenn, I got a young guy on my roster. He wants to be on the cover. He's like my most important client. His name's Antoine Walker.
Yeah.
Employee number 8 for the Celtics.
Yeah.
Like, we'll do it for free. Like, I want to take care of my guy."
Right.
I'm like, hey,
Because that gives him leverage
it
with
gives
his
him.
athlete.
There's
right?
one cover.
All right, let's take a minute here, do a couple of commercials, make some money. We'll be right back on Pure Hustle.
DraftKings, listen to me. You listen good. I appreciate you for recognizing how valuable my time is. But instantly, stop. You're not gonna make me sweat a little bit? Feel some extra bumps in my chest while the game is going on? Oh, look, wait a minute. There's my $200. That was fast.
Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Bet just $5 to get 200 in free bets instantly. Action so good, why bet NBA anywhere else?
Cha-ching.
Pure hustle. Pure hustle.
Welcome back to Pure Hustle. We are hustling here with Michael Wild, Jeff Odiorn, a.k.a. Joe, and Glenn Chin, G, to the Monet. I remember when you guys took my face for radio and put me in an advertising campaign
Yes.
on camera. And I remember it because, so we did a bunch of commercials, right? I know we did NHL because it was Pavel Bure.
Right.
Did NASCAR, did a bunch of the titles, did Madden, right? Did a bunch of the
Yeah.
titles.
Yeah.
But I was supposed to be, I was supposed to be a secret back then. Because I was this everyman
Sure.
voice, right?
We wanted people to put themselves
we don't
in
want
the
anyone to see your face. So
Sure.
you were like
Yeah.
art directing me into like, I remember the NHL one because you put a goalie mask on me.
Right.
I'm like behind a microphone and I'm talking to Pavel Bure on the other end of the phone. And I'm wearing a goalie
right.
mask at the time. But what I remember most out of that spot was that I had to learn one line of Russian and of course, it being me, it took like 3 days for me to get these 4 words.
And the O's were long.
But I
O's and-
still use it. Like if I run into a Russian person today, the first thing I say to them is "Da spasibo I postarayus," which I had to learn to talk to Pavel, and it means yeah, that's great, thanks, I'll think about it. And they look at me like I'm just meeting this person, and instead of like saying "Nostravia" or something, right, like that makes sense, I'm like "Da spasibo I postarayus," and they're like, "Fucker knows Russian." I'll just launch into some Russian here, and I'm like, "No, that's all I got."
That's all.
That's all I got.
I'm authentic.
But
to
I
that point.
remember that campaign because
That was a great campaign.
It was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, and the first rule of marketing is like not to turn off the customer, right?
Yeah.
We want to like attract customers, so
Yeah.
we were like, okay, let's not put his face on camera.
That's right.
Let's like crop it to here.
I was like,
Let's like get the microphone, let's not show his eyes,
Yeah.
not his creepy face. Just,
It was
Just
crushing.
the teeth. The teeth were good.
the
we're
teeth
like
have always been
chick-
good.
we're like-
oh
the
my
The
god.
chiclets weren't as nice as they are
let's see
now.
the chiclets and the
Well,
microphone.
they change every 5
and that's-
years, right?
And that's
That-
it.
that-
And it
all
worked.
that money
And it
you
worked. We
never
sold more
made.
games
And
that
you
year
guys
than we
don't
ever
even
sold.
know how crushed I was. I'm on that plane coming down there thinking, this is it. This is my on-camera moment. This is going to be big. And then you put me in like, you're like, oh, yeah, throw on this Wookiee helmet here. And just as long as we don't see you. It's
That
gonna
was
be
a
saw-
great cross-pollination
Yeah.
of culture,
Yeah.
that site.
DJ Jazzy
That,
Jeff.
because,
Yes, DJ
DJ
Jazzy
Jazzy Jeff, Jeffrey Towns,
Yeah.
greatest dude. We met him along the way too.
Yeah.
He loved the games. He was doing Fresh Prince, and he'd always be playing games in the green room. And we wanted Jeff to be in the commercials.
He was just-
So it was perfect. Like,
Yeah.
he was your
he was my wingman.
He was your wingman. It was like a radio show.
Yeah.
You were the radio
Yeah.
guy. He was kind of in the booth, and it was amazing because I remember when I introduced you to Jeff. He was just psyched, and I was like, Andrew, give him one.
Yeah. I remember that EA Sports. Jazzy Jeff is in the
Yeah.
game. I don't remember big chunks of it because I blacked out. Because you guys knew we got to have a lot of Crown Royal and Coke on set, and I got into that quickly.
Did we?
Yeah. No. I think Jeff knew.
Really?
I think
Seriously?
Jeff knew. Teeth. He was.
Oh.
He had my
Okay.
nickname from him then was Teeth.
Right.
And he knew coming in that I was feeling a little nervy, and I was just pounding
Really?
the Canadian Mother's
Oh, I-
Milk
I-
all day long, and I was
you
so
seem calm.
lit.
Now we know why.
Yeah, I was lit for that, and that's why it's some of my
There was a little
some of my
codependency going
greatest
on there.
and only on-camera performances
Yeah,
of my whole lifetime. right there.
the mouth work was amazing.
No, I don't
it was
hear that
really
every
good.
day.
Like
By the way, I
the
don't
way you
hear
did
that
your
often
mouth,
enough.
The way you did your mouth
Yeah.
was like amazing.
I don't hear that enough.
People talked
Your
about that for a
mouth
long
work
time.
is amazing.
Yeah.
And then I say to them, it's because I'm a cunning linguist.
It's the way you shaped it.
Yeah,
It
it's
is.
the way I
On
shape
camera.
it.
Hey, respect to the voice,
Yeah.
but tell us a little bit about some of the guys you met over the years.
I met so many people through
That,
you guys.
that,
I became like a party trick. Almost, right? Like it really was. Like every
What kind
time-
of party?
Every
Describe
time,
the party.
yeah.
What?
No, it was a sort of it was one of Michael's parties out in the suburbs of Los Angeles. You remember those? I'm not getting into that. No, it was. What am I talking about?
You're talking about all the dudes
I'm
that
like a
met
goldfish.
you.
I'm like a
You
goldfish once
started-
around the bowl.
you
and
were
it's
a
all here
party
again.
trick.
So I remember one year where you sent me to an NHL PA golf tournament
Right.
because I like golf,
Right.
And you thought, finally, he's competent at something. We can send him somewhere. And I got to play golf with Mr. Hockey Gordie Howe.
Nice.
And and for me, this was like outside of like meeting Wayne Gretzky.
Sure.
It's the biggest thing
Right. Sure.
you can do as a
Sure.
Canadian hockey player. And I'm like, and I started to look at it like this, the same way that it was exploding for you guys down here, head office, at the agency, you know. It was like, oh my God, we are influencing culture now. Like we are actually a touchstone.
Yeah.
We're pushing this ball.
With the past,
And
not with the future.
I was
but
having
with
the same
past.
weird experiences where I was like, I'd get a call from you and you're like, Junior Seau's got a golf tournament down in San Diego that he does. God rest his soul.
Yeah.
And we want you to just go there and play a little golf with him because he loves the game. All these guys love
You
the game.
became friends with Junior.
I became really good friends with the guy. Loved the guy, but it was all like it came out of this experience of the game, and they were like so attached to it, and they loved it when I would just throw that line out.
Yeah.
I remember going to like an after party at Seau's, the restaurant. We play golf all day, and we're behind the velvet ropes at the bar afterwards, right? And like. It's just all kinds of women are clamoring to get in there, right? And these guys there's like 100 of them from all sports, you know, like Brady's there as a rookie, the whole thing. And Junior's like, Teeth, because nicely he caught on to that as well. Thanks again for that,
We
Jeff.
established
He's like,
that.
Teeth. He quiets the room and he's like, give them one. And I yell out, EA Sports. It's in the game. Brings the house down. I could sit here and I could talk about 1,000 athletes that I got to meet.
Sure.
Just by my association with you guys. And I'm sure it was like 10 times that on your level, like the people that you were meeting and influencing. And
Once the phenomenon took off,
yeah,
we were able to invite those folks and they wanted to be in
Yeah.
our world,
Yeah.
and then we got invited into theirs.
Yeah.
And and a lot of those were pre-existing relationships for you that you had, but that ability. I mean, Wild and I, we shot the top 20 athletes in the top 4 sports for almost a decade.
Okay, let's take a second, right? Am I right? Let's make some money from our sponsors.
This looks like an actual farm.
It looks cute on the app.
Eyes the buy the build the boats, and eyes the buy the sailor, eyes the buy the catch the fish, and take them home alive.
Meanwhile, at a Verbo, when other vacation rentals aren't what they're cracked up to be, try one where you know what you'll get.
Pure hustle. Pure hustle.
Back to more bullshitting and fun talk here on Pure Hustle. Anybody going to say anything of significance now or no? Anybody got anything? No? All right, let's just keep doing the same thing. So you got all this momentum going. You guys, let's be honest, you're killing it, right? Feeling your oats a little bit, right? Masters of the playing field. Where do you go? Like, where do you go after that? Like, I know I'm talking about your last days with it, because you're talking about like 92 to like
2005.
mid 2000s,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Tell me about that, like the end period right there, like where you're.
We're charging off of that momentum, right? All of the hustles that have led to the side hustles that have led to the momentum that have led to the, we've now brought that irrational belief to life. We're definitely a top 5 sports brand. We're definitely got all this stuff going, but the hustles don't stop. They just get bigger,
Right.
fucking crazier.
You add a zero
Yeah.
to the end of it.
And
Irrational belief gets bigger.
gets more irrational.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the NBA Live shoot that one year
Yeah.
when there was like sort of a last minute as a complimentary down from on high, John Riccatello, shout out to John, it was like, we need a complimentary piece to this NBA Live campaign that we'd already done. And so at the time, the product, that they were focusing on was this freestyle component
Right.
and the ability to use freestyle. So we had like 2 weeks, to get from idea to written scripts to
That's
going
not
out
enough
and
time.
By the way, it's not enough time. How do you pull that off?
Yeah.
The whole.
Absolutely. It was nuts. Like we finished the original campaign. People liked it. Riccatello and Larry Probst was like, hey, that second idea you had, like, I'll fund it, but you got to use the same production team.
Yeah.
So we had to get after it. And so Jeff wrote a great spoken word spot, and we had to get like 15 players
In 2 weeks?
in 2 weeks.
Oh, that's
So literally,
that's not easy.
After the shoot that we did for the first campaign, we were still in New York. So they were like, hey, Glenn, you got to get a bunch of guys. And again, shout out Sandy, you got some guys too. And, I called up Steve Nash. Hey, I think you're in town in New York. We're at the Flatiron Building. Come by tonight.
Yeah.
It'll be like finding a lottery ticket on the sidewalk.
Yeah. We're gonna cut you a check.
Yeah,
You just
exactly.
show up, do your
Exactly.
thing, give us 5 minutes.
And this is with athletes all over
All
the,
over the
all over
country.
the country.
Yeah.
Off
And you
season.
have-
Best of the best.
Oh, and
have
you
to
had to
create a
go to
campaign.
them.
Right.
You had to go to them. You
Yeah.
couldn't get them all consolidated.
Well, we
in
had
one
some
place.
guys come in to New York. Like at that time, it was Drew Gooden and Baron Davis and Stevie Francis was actually
Stevie Franchise?
doing
Part
the
of the
spot,
other one.
the
Yeah.
other
Right,
one,
right.
Right.
Which
So
was
we
your
had some guys.
directorial debut, by the way.
Well,
No.
and then there's this new spoken word deal, and I'm in the client tent for advertising client nerds, and I'm just watching the shoot go on, and one of Jeff's directors is doing the spot, and the players are like pissed because he's telling them to truncate more.
Oh, he's directing the talent.
And Jeff comes in and he's like, hey, like, you helped us do this. Like, you got half an hour to pretend you're a director. Go direct those guys. So I'm up there, like, doing the say thing with this kind of spoken word.
Yeah.
And the guys I invited, they know what I do. And they're like,
What are you doing out
you're
here,
fucking
man?
the director? Like, Darren.
By the way, that's pure hustle.
Yeah, that's
That is
pure hustle.
You're
That's-
like, yeah, I'm the brand manager, I'm the product manager,
Yeah,
and
now I
I'm
gotta
out
be
here
the
directing.
director?
And then I'm going to edit it, and I'm probably going to like replace all of you with myself.
Yeah. So that was a hustle. Like we went to LA the next day, and Michael went to Charlotte to go hang out with Jerry Stackhouse. But that was like the irrational belief is like, hey, you got 9 days to pull this off. We're like, okay, let's go.
It was
We can do it.
it was a logistical nightmare. I mean, we basically we went back to the agency, after we had this meeting with at EA Sports. We told our people, okay, 9 days. You're going here, you're going here, you're going here, and you're going here. Let's break apart, you know what I mean? Let's divide and conquer and make this thing work, right? And people were just like glazed eyes, like, like
We
what?
can't do
like
that.
how? Like
This is
what?
a 3-month project.
Like what?
Oh,
like
yeah.
how are you going to do this?
yeah.
Right.
And but we made it happen. We're like, okay, we have to. There's no other choice right now but to make this happen.
Which set the table for future projects. The irrational belief starts to be, yeah, we can do anything. And then Madden comes up, and we got to do a shoot in a lot less time or the same. And Jeff gets his wish and gets his private plane to fly around everywhere.
And we had to get to, in 8 days, we had to get and shoot 20 athletes at 12 different training camps. And the only way to do that logistically,
Was it the only way, Jeff?
the only way to do that logistically was to not fly commercial. So
No, say it.
Well,
say it. I want you to say it. I
and-
want you to
no,
say
and this was
private jet.
Yeah.
PJ. I want you to say it.
And this, and this was Madden, by the way. This was like Madden during
Crown jewel.
Yeah.
crown jewel of EA Sports.
Biggest
what I mean?
title
and,
by
and basically
far.
this was happening. This got launched during training camp.
Yeah.
So nobody's centrally located.
So our producer comes to us and says, again, logistical nightmare, how are we going to pull this off? She's like, I think the only way to do this is with a private jet.
I think that's what you said. No, I don't think she said that.
I don't remember exactly what the
I don't think
genesis
so.
was.
I'm going to need 60
but-
gallons of Courvoisier
Yeah.
and a private jet.
Yes, pretty much.
Yeah.
And it kicked off one of the greatest experiences. I've never been on a private jet since. And it was
Yes.
an amazing experience. I
Yeah.
mean, we were shooting Marshall Falk, we were shooting Ray Lewis, we were shooting Jerry Rice, we were literally flying. We went to Miami, we shoot Zach Thomas and Jason Taylor, and like and it was
Terrell
it
Owens.
was like
Yeah.
Everybody.
You wanted a lunch story. We were flying from Miami to the Bay Area. and we were flying over Vegas, and we were ahead of schedule, and it was lunchtime, and the pilot was like, "You guys want to just land in Vegas and have lunch?" And we're like, so we landed, we had lunch, we got back in the air, and we finished the flight. So it was fun. It was legit. So I just always assumed that everything got sold through, or that it never got to the top.
Right.
And a couple months later, I'm at like a EA function, but it wasn't a huge one. It was like a couple, and I'm actually sitting at the table with Probst and Larry Probst and Nancy Smith and a couple other people. And someone else at the table asks me about how that experience was. And I was like, oh, it was kind of cool. And logistically, we needed to use a private jet and blah, blah. And Probst jumps in and he goes, you. He's like, your logistics. I knew you guys just wanted a boondoggle. I let you have it. It was like,
That's
right. So it was like,
You've been working hard for 20 years.
Exactly.
You deserve one.
Exactly.
PJ
And
to
the
take you around
truth,
the country.
the truth for sure is Whitey, a.k.a. Eric Whiteford,
yes.
did all that sell-through internally.
Did
Yes.
he?
Right? And
Yeah.
just
Oh, so
made
he had it
sure
locked down for you.
that happened.
Shout out to
and-
Whitey. I didn't know he
Whitey.
had. I didn't
Yeah,
even know
without a
that.
doubt.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I mean, there's
Whitey's-
got to be a little ribbon on the end of it after you guys spent all that sweat equity building this thing, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And again, Eric Whitey's a great example. That's what we were talking about earlier, which is there was no tension between our teams and their teams. We were allies.
Yeah.
And it was like, if that's what it's going to take, like the selling piece of stuff, whether it was an idea or whether it was a logistical plan that happened to have a private jet involved,
Yeah.
we just did it together. And then we always knew.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and why you get a seat on the plane.
Yeah.
No, for sure.
That always helps.
Yeah.
We have your
He's-
special seat just
was-
for you.
Yeah.
He's like, okay, I can probably figure it out.
Definitely
Yeah.
incentivized.
Whitey makes it happen.
Yeah.
I love these
That's good.
stories.
Yeah,
I love
absolutely.
it. I love
and
the
I think
hustle.
from all these stories, and experiences, they continue, right? I mean, shoot.
I live my
Kobe-
life based on
Yeah.
this credo.
I mean, Kobe reaches out to Michael 10 years later because of the work.
Kobe called you directly?
Yeah, it was. Yes, he did. Very strange. It was funny because I think sometimes you don't really know, kind of like when you're in the moment, you don't really kind of understand. You're just doing your deal and you're hustling and you're trying to make it work, but you don't really know what effect it has outside
Yeah.
of our own little universe.
Yeah.
So years after, I don't know how many. My God, it must have been
At least a decade.
10 years after we had done all the work for EA Sports. You know what I mean? Kind of set that brand in place and
Yeah.
whatever. And one day I get a call from, I'm in my office in Sonoma and I get a call from this woman and she's like, I represent a sports athlete and he wants to talk to you about doing some marketing. And I'm like, okay, cool. Let's, all right, let's do it. She said, are you available tomorrow, but at 8 o'clock? And I go, yeah, I'll do it. Of course, I'm ready. And of course, for the next, 24 hours, I'm sitting there going well, who in the hell could
Who
this
is
be?
it? Yeah.
Right.
I mean, who is this?
Yeah.
Because that's what you do, right?
Am I getting
You
pranked?
You don't know who it is.
Right.
I didn't think I was getting pranked. You know what I mean? Because it'd be a
But-
really good prank unless
Right.
he was doing it, or maybe he was doing it. So I remember I was, I went home. I was at my house in Sonoma, and it's like, I've got my phone by me, and I'm waiting for the call, and then, sometime around 8 o'clock, the call came in, and the phone rang and came out, and he says, "Hey, Michael," and he goes, "It's Kobe Bryant."
Can only be one name.
And I was like, "Hey, what's up? How you doing?" I'm like, "Wow, that's a pretty big, that's a
Yeah.
pretty big call."
Yeah.
And he basically said, "Hey man, I remember you guys did that work for EA Sports, and I just loved it, and I loved the attitude, and I'm working on the brand voice for Body Armor, which is a sports drink that he was partnered with at the
Right.
time." And he said, "I want you to help me create some, brand voice videos." And I was just like, this is the coolest thing, ever. I remember my kids and my wife were going "Who just called you?" I was like, "Kobe Bryant." And they couldn't believe it. They were like, "Bullshit." No. He didn't just call you. I'm like, "Yeah, he just called me out of the blue."
Yeah. You might as well have said that's the president.
It's the
all along.
president. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like
He's
whoever.
calling me.
It's Jesus. It's like,
He's handing over the nuclear football to me. Obama needs an art director.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and everybody, you're all still doing it. I'm still doing it. I don't just do EA now. I went from EA to Geico. I'm doing the voice of Geico. I'm doing the voice of Jack FM. It's I mean, it was weird at first because I thought that I was going to be this guy. I thought I was going to be an advertising guy. I thought I was going to be writing ads, and you just don't know, right? You just
No,
don't
you
know,
don't know.
like what fork you're going to take in the road, and suddenly this is what I'm doing, and I'm hustling every day, and I'm like so happy to have you guys on this first show because it takes me back to those early days when there were no rules, when there was just like gumption and courage and chutzpah, right? And you just got after it. And I don't know if that's just what young people do, but I'm still doing it. So I don't think that's just the case of what it was. It was a moment in time, and it's like it changed my life, changed your life. Jeff, you're killing it.
got the dream job.
Glenn goes from EA to Nike
Yeah,
as like a
that's-
global basketball ambassador.
Yeah, I mean, you think when we're doing all our stuff together, we're having fun.
Yeah.
It's stressful, but that irrational belief and that hustle to go get it done, you don't really realize who's watching,
Yeah.
right? Kobe's watching. Kobe calls you. You know, for me, it's a more corporate thing, and Nike calls.
Yeah.
Because I'm the beneficiary of all our collective work, and I get to go work, you know, running global brand for Nike basketball
Yeah.
and some other great experiences, and that goes away, and then there's other experiences.
Yeah.
But I can always tie it back to, you know, being a young guy and doing everything with you guys, and same thing with Jeff. Like Jeff goes and runs a big agency
Right.
in New York.
Right.
And then gets put in the hospital by Ray Lewis. That's for another episode.
It's just
But
you got to hold that story back.
The point, oh yeah, for sure. But Glenn's right. Like, and here's the beauty of it. Like, the hustle is real. The hustle built this foundation. We're still doing it today.
Yeah.
You know, we're bringing that attitude to some other people that we've worked with, like
Yeah.
DraftKings and Sony for their esports launch,
Yeah.
and like it's just what we know. It's what we do. But the beauty of it is identifying and inviting in those young people today who we might be mentors for this idea of pure
Right.
hustle and whatever, but they're already kind of doing it, and this
Yeah.
just helps a little bit. And as Wild said, when we started to do that, identifying some of these folks and sort of sharing our world with them, that like learn more every day, as more from them
Yeah.
than whatever we could possibly teach, because it you know, it's alive and well, and you know, it's real.
That's what I want to do. I want to do a bunch more of these, and I just want to have people on that embrace that ethos.
Yeah.
And I
Absolutely.
don't care what they do. It could be the guy that's sweeping that stoop out there. If he's killing it, if he's doing the best job he can imagine.
If he's sweeping the corners versus just the floor, if he's getting the corners, dude, that's pure hustle.
Dude, he's just out there to head fake you.
Yeah.
He's sweeping, but
Pure
he
hustle.
owns
The
a
chase
lot.